Welcome to the Totally Honest Cooking Show. I'm Mark. Today we're doing baked mac and cheese. Now, before we start cooking, I recommend getting everything ready, but the first thing we've got to do is shred our cheese, right? You can't have a good mac and cheese without the cheese. It's half the name, right? So I've got this aged cheddar cheese, and I've got this fancy bacony gouda, and I'm going to shred them, and then we're going to make our cheese sauce and all that stuff, and woo woo woo, etc., right? Okay, we're going to start by pulling the rind off the gouda. Get it nice and naked, and seeing if there's any rind left on the cheddar. There is, so we're just gonna cut it off. Before we start shredding, I want to make sure that we talk a little bit about cheese. Get the cheese that you want. Today's recipe is based on a recipe by Alton Brown that I fell in love with a number of years ago. What we're doing is we're swapping out the more traditional cheddar for a nice funky aged cheddar, and we're swapping the jack cheese out for a gouda, which is a little softer than the jack. Usually, I go for one flavorful funky cheese and one flavorful soft cheese. We're also making a couple changes by adding in an egg and some Italian seasoning in the topping. And bada boom, it's almost a whole new recipe. Almost. I don't know. Again, I don't really know the rules for the differences between recipes, but whatever. We're just going to play. So to start, you want this kind of cheese. You want fresh cheese. The reason you want fresh cheese is that fresh cheese melts better. And I'm going to run it through this fancy schmancy Mixolator's shredding device. Now, I'm not going to show you shredding 2 blocks of cheese, but I will take a minute and just say, I hate shredding cheese. I will do it on the grater if it's a little bit, but mostly I use the fancy schmancy Mixolator. That's why we have the fancy schmancy Mixolator. Okay, we got almost everybody ready, so we're going to preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're going to butter a casserole dish. I think you can use a 4-quart. I'm just using my favorite casserole dish, man. I've done it in a 5-quart before. I think I've done it in smaller. Okay, 5 ounces of our gouda. 5 ounces of our cheddar. The remaining gouda will be put on later, so we got that out. The rest of the cheddar got put away. 3 tablespoons of flour, all-purpose. 1 tablespoon kind of heaping of this mustard. Then I got a teaspoon of smoked paprika and half a teaspoon of Hungarian paprika. It's a sweet paprika. I like it, so I'm putting it in there. We've also got a teaspoon of sodium citrate, our old friend. We're going to have a cup of panko breadcrumbs. And there's going to be a bunch of butter that we put in as we go. And some half and half that's not out yet. Okay, now we're ready. This is one of those recipes I used my kitchen scale for. This one's kind of beat up. I'm looking for a replacement. We'll see soon. Anyway, that's how I measured out my cheese. The reason we use the kitchen scale is because different shreds have different sizes have different form factors, and you can't just go buy a cup of cheese if they're different factors, right? Right. Okay, to start with, we're going to melt 3 tablespoons of butter over medium heat. Then we're going to drop in a cup of panko. Some of you might be saying, Mark, this seems kind of counterintuitive. Why are we doing the topping first? And I agree with you to an extent. The reason that we're doing it this way is that in the past I've found that when I make this, by the end of it, I am so hungry that I rush the topping, and sometimes I burn my butter. So, that's why. We're just going to melt that real quick. Okay, now we're toasting our breadcrumbs. You know how to do that, right? You just throw your breadcrumbs in, you toss them around. Yeah. Just keep them moving, they won't burn, probably. I've never burned the breadcrumbs, I have burned the butter. I'm going to put a tablespoon of Italian seasoning on this for no other reason other than I friggin' love Italian seasoning. Easy enough, right? You could buy it pre-seasoned, but honestly, I don't buy the pre-seasoned because you never know what I'm going to use it for. If I'm using it for chicken, I might add something different to the chicken, right? Anyway, keep it moving. It'll turn a golden brown color. And as long as you keep it moving, you probably won't burn the spices. Okay, that seems good to me. It's picked up a little color. Next up, we got our mac. 8 ounces macaroni noodles. I prefer big NOODS. Get the biggest noodles you can get. Throw them in a pan. Then we're just going to barely cover them with water. And we're going to drop in about a tablespoon of then we're going to drop in about a tablespoon of kosher salt. Now we're starting the cheese sauce. This is going to take, oh, better put the heat on the mac, huh? That sounds smart. We're going for al dente with that, just so you know. You want it soft, but still resistance against the teeth. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're taking this 3 tablespoons of butter. We're going to mix in this 3 tablespoons of we're going to mix in these 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. And what we're doing is creating what's called a roux. Basically, flour can be used to thicken things. You want to cook the flour so that it's not raw, because consuming raw flour isn't fun. The original recipe that I kind of modeled this on by Alton Brown calls for a pale blonde color. Now, a blonde roux is kind of the color of peanut butter, and a white roux is white. They're different flavors. The blonde one is a little toastier. The white one, less so. And we're kind of going for in between those. And while we're doing that, we're just gonna whisk away, right? Try to make sure nobody burns. If anybody starts looking like they're gonna burn, we're just gonna move to the next thing. Okay, that looks about right, so I'm adding in my spices. Once everybody seems like they're mixed together, we're going to slowly start adding in 3 cups of half and half. Here the flour is used both as a flavoner. Here the flour is used both as a flavorer and a thickener. There we go. If you're using an overly large whisk like this, be careful not to splash. I probably need to buy a smaller whisk, to be honest with you. It's what I have. Don't judge me. While everybody over here is getting to know each other, we're going to beat an egg. Pasta's almost done. I'm going to go ahead and add the citrate. Let it dissolve in the cream. We're going a little slower than we necessarily have to, but that's okay. Now we're going to add in our cheddar. Pasta's done. Drain your pasta, don't rinse. Okay. Add in the 5 ounces of gouda. Biggish pinch of salt. Couple twists of black pepper because I like it. Next up, we're going to temper our egg. This may or may not go well. We might have a major whoopsie doodle on our hand. We'll see. It's been 0 days since. It's been a few episodes since we've had a major whoopsie doodle. Tempering an egg. This will give it a kind of custardy texture. To temper the egg, I take a little bit of the hot stuff and drizzle it into the mixture with the egg. Then we take a little bit of more. Then we add it back in. And the idea is that you're prepping the egg for the temperature in the pan, so that when you add the egg in, it doesn't just scramble. See how you don't see any solid bits of egg in here? That's because the egg is tempered. Now we pour it back in. Bang off our spatula. Do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Minimize waste with our spatula. Okay. Give her a last whisk. Make sure everybody actually melted. Looks pretty good. We're going to go ahead and move our pasta into our baking dish. Okay, kill the heat on that. Bring the pasta forward. I'm not going to use Bernie for that. Pour our cheese sauce. Some of our spices did not get mixed in well enough. Next time, I will add the spices faster. And add the cream less slowly. That's a little bit of a whoopsie doodle. Nothing major though. Okay, now we're going to mix this around so that the cheese gets on all the NOODS. Once you feel like the cheese is on all the NOODS, you're going to go ahead and take the last of the gouda. Put it over the top. If you have leftover cheddar that you feel like using, you could probably do that too. I'm not. I have a bunch of cheddar left over. We'll save that for breakfast tomorrow. Throw it on some potatoes or something. Yum. And now we're ready to start placing our breadcrumbs, our panko. I like most things that involve spreading stuff around. You can just put them all in one place and kind of trowel them about. I have experimented with doubling up on the panko because I do like a breadcrumb topping. Double is too much, but sometimes I feel that a cup is too little, so sometimes I'll sneak in 3/4 a cup. Okay. She's ready to go in the oven. Okay, I'm going to put this in the oven for 20 minutes, but I'm going to check it at 15. Just in case. We're going till the topping is golden brown, and I will see you in 15 to 20 minutes. It's been about 17 minutes. I used that time to clean up a little bit, and it looks like our mac is pretty well cooked. I'm going to go ahead and take it out of the oven. Doesn't that look good? It's still bubbly. course, it's still bubbly. I just took it out of the oven. What am I talking about? Anyway, let it sit like this for like 10 minutes. Don't burn yourself. Remember, it's hot. Turn the oven off. Don't forget. I'll be back in 10. 8 to 10 minutes later, and we're ready to serve our mac and cheese. So just go ahead and tear into it. There it goes. You could probably spruce it up a little bit with some parsley or something like that. Sometimes I like to serve it with vegetables. But this is finally my definitive edition of this dish until the Mark II version comes out. Let's see, can I get a better shot with the lighting? Again, we are shooting in one of the worst kitchens in America, and I did have to kind of bootleg some lighting just to film in here at all. But there's our mac and cheese. I'm going to go ahead and give it a little taste. It's very rich. The panko gives it a little bit of a crunch, and the cheese gives it just the right amount of funk. I call this the best thing you can make when you want to use every pan in the house. Okay, with that said, I'll see you next Wednesday. Don't forget to tell a friend, like, subscribe, and click that little bell. Bye.